Hey everyone, I hope that this message finds all of you and your loved ones safe and well. Um, Me and my family are doing fine here in Albuquerque, holed up in our house, filming from the bedroom, having Zoom and WebEx meetings from the bedroom, things like that. Um, things are okay, and I hope that the same is true for you wherever you're at. I did want to check in as we are entering the kind of final stage of the course. Particularly this week, we're going to be reading Oscar Martinez's The Beast. And as I was rereading it the last couple of days, um, the kind of darkness of it really struck me. I think it's a very important and vital story to be told and to understand the kinds of violence that migrants from Central America are escaping. And as I commented on an earlier discussion board, I can't remember which module it was on now, but I shared some links to information about the history of U.S. interventions in Latin America, the kind of destabilization that U.S. foreign policy has had on the region, and the sad reality that as Americans we don't really understand that our own policies have created not all of, but a lot of the damage that people there are facing and that create reasons for them to migrate. Um, Additionally, I'm going to add a couple of resources below this video that you can look into if you have the time. The ones from Radio Ambulante, that's a Spanish language podcast, so if you speak Spanish, it's a great listen. I regularly listen to it. Um, if not, there are English language transcriptions for each of the episodes. They do a good job of, as they claim to do, of telling the stories of Latin America and its people. So, the stories that I wanted to also share about migration um, maybe bring things up closer to the present in some regards. Um, to the work of journalist Alice Driver, for example, followed some of the migrant caravans that we've heard a lot about in the last couple of years to again figure out who are these people and what are their reasons for wanting to migrate to El Norte, in spite of all of the rhetoric of recent years and the reality that many of them would be stuck in Mexico or separated from children or their families otherwise. The things that we know have been going on along the border with Mexico. Um, so again, the stories that I'm adding here aren't necessarily uplifting, but they do provide more than just that story of violence. And again, that's a story for so many people in Latin America that we can't ignore it. And that is a major driver of migration. People just trying to escape, really seeking refuge in the United States or even in Mexico, as we saw in some cases in Martinez's work. Um, but also, there are things like climate change that mean that farmers are not able to harvest crops in the same ways that they had been in the past. They're not able to support themselves economically on that or their families. Even the terms of NAFTA and its more recent successor policy, um, those things have also created unintended consequences that few policymakers are really willing to address. If I can find it, there's a story from The Nation from a couple of years back that deals with the ways that the terms of NAFTA actually drove migration from Mexico to the United States, folks looking for work. So again, we need to really grapple with the ways that these policies impact migration. It's much, much more than the unfortunately shallow and heated rhetoric that we've heard all too much in the last couple of years. Um, and so I wanted to hopefully add some of those kinds of contours as well. For the graduate students, I'm interested to also see what you think of Empire of Borders. That's an interesting work in terms of not just thinking about the ways that the United States has pushed its southern border to the southern Mexican border with Guatemala. There's been quite a bit of work done on that in recent years, but also thinking about how border policies have impacted world borders, moving outward from the United States. So it's kind of taking the history that we've been talking about, the dynamics we've been talking about all semester long, and thinking about what has been done with those through, or I should say, since 9/11, with the um, kind of revised world relations that we've seen since that time. So, again, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that. I'm going to be sending some feedback on the blog posts that I've seen several of you have posted. Also, remember that we're kind of nearing the end. May 6th, Wednesday, is the last day of the term. So if you want me to look at a rough draft of your final project, get it to me a couple of days before that. I'll be willing to send comments and feedback for you before you submit the final. Um, if you're one of a couple of people who have already sent me a rough draft, I'm should be having some extra. That's a weird way to put it. I should have a little more time in the next day or two so that I'll be able to get to those and send those back to you with some feedback. So um, again, let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything I can do to help, and I hope that you're doing well.